Friday. So today's video is slightly late. For you, you will be watching this on Saturday because I've already filmed this video. But when I went to edit it, my good old editing computer, my good old editing program decided to play up and corrupt all my files. So I'm having to film this video again. So hence why it's actually not a Bookish Friday, it's a Bookish Saturday. So yay! Don't just love YouTubing. Okay, so here we are to talk about my August wrap up. This is where I discuss all the books that I read throughout the month of August. So I hit major slump in August. There was a 10-day period where I didn't finish any books at all. I was still reading, but not reading at the normal rate that I would normally read. For some people, you're going to hear my stats and think that's a great month of reading, but in comparison to what I normally read, I was definitely in a major slump. So let's get to the stats. I read 12 books in August. Compare that to the normal 16 to 18 books. You can see where this is actually one of my worst months of the year. In star ratings, I had no 1-0, so there was no bad books. I had 1 2-star, 5 3-star, 4 4-star and 2 5-star. So the majority of star ratings were 3 and up, so relatively good month. The formats of the book that I read, I read 2 ebooks. Go me. Ebooks is not something I generally read, so to get 2 in 1 month, that's a miracle. I read 2 audiobooks and I read 8 physical books. The bindings of the physical books, 3 were hardback, 5 were paperback. The authors of the books I read, 4 were male and 8 were female. And the origin of the books that I read, 5 were borrowed and 7 were owned. The audio hours that I listened to equaled 13 hours and 21 minutes, and my page count of physical books was 3,288 pages. The genres, I read no thrillers, no contemporaries and no non-fiction, but I did read 1 classic, 1 manga graphic novel, 1 middle grade and 9 fantasy. So that is my statistics. So before I get started, I am going to talk about 1 DNF that is not included in those statistics. Normally I don't discuss my DNFs, but this is not a DNF because it was a bad book and I couldn't finish it. This was a DNF because because of my slump, I just didn't feel like this was the right book to read at the right time. So, what book am I talking about? This one. It is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a very dark, hard-hitting contemporary. There are multiple trigger warnings for this book. I knew that going in. I just didn't think it was going to be as hard-hitting as I thought it was. I thought I would be able to cope with it. However, it really did. I found like I could only read sort of like 15 to 20 pages a day of this, because reading too much of this in one lump would really bring down my mental health. This book deals with sexual abuse, abuse of power and abuse of authority, and yeah, it's really dark, really hard to read. The story is a woman in her 30s is being asked to give her side of the story about her tutor from university or college, who she had an affair with while she was at school, but someone else is bringing a court case against the same tutor claiming that he sexually abused her, and people believe that she was sexually abused as well. However, she thinks that her relationship with her tutor was mutual. She wanted it. He never hurt her. He never harmed her. But as you're reading it, you can see that he is blatantly grooming her and pushing her to do things that she wasn't ready to do, and that is obvious. As a reader, you see that that is obviously abuse, sexual abuse, abuse of power, abuse of authority, but she doesn't see it like that, and it's so heart-wrenching to watch this woman denying it. And I know that I was about there. So I was only about 130 pages away from the end. That's as far as I got. But I couldn't, because I was slumping so hard at the point that I was reading this, I just didn't feel like I was going to be able to give this book the time that it needed, and it was worsening my slump as well, because it is such a hard book to read. So yeah, I know that this is definitely going to be like a 4-star when I finish it, but right now is just not the right time. But I do want to continue it in the future, and that is why I wanted to mention it here now. I'm going to talk about the books that were not in my readathons for the month of August first. So one other book that I managed to pick up was The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. The reason why I picked this up was because my local library's audiobook app had this as an audiobook, and I really needed audiobooks throughout of August, so I saw this was on there, and so I put it on loan and I listened to the audiobook. Sometimes I would read along with it, sometimes I just let the audiobook play and I would listen to it while I was doing other things. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the fact that this story is kind of told as witness statements, and you're getting not a continuation of The Handmaid's Tale. This is like years after The Handmaid's Tale and the fall of Gilead, and the legend of what happened with The Handmaid's Tale does kind of link into this story. I don't want to go into how because of spoilers, but I really like that we got multiple points of view here. This does make me want to go back and reread The Handmaid's Tale, just so I can see some of the pointers that were in here that were kind of a nudge to The Handmaid's Tale. Obviously, The Handmaid's Tale and The Testaments were written, like, I think it was 30 years apart. So, yeah, I only read The Handmaid's Tale last year. So, and I've only read it once, so I would like to reread it. And I think I listened to that on audiobook as well, if I remember rightly. So I would like to buy myself a copy of The Handmaid's Tale and really like get to grips with it. So this one I gave 4 stars. I really did enjoy it, and as I say, I really liked how it linked in to The Handmaid's Tale. The next book that I read was Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. This is a really battered old copy from Penguin Classics. So this is one of the oldest classics I have ever read. It was written back in 1719. It is 300 years old. So as I was reading through this, this is the infamous story of a man who leaves his home and the security of a job at his father's firm in an office, and he goes sailing and he gets shipwrecked, and he ends up spending the majority of his life alone on a deserted island, and he learns how to survive on what the land can give him and what he can scavenge from the shipwreck. and it was really interesting to read. However, later on in the book, and I am talking the last sort of third quarter of the book, we are introduced to a new character whose name is Friday. And Friday is a man that Robinson Crusoe saves from the savages, which is obviously the local indigenous people. And he saves Friday from being cannibalized. And he calls him Friday because that's the day he saves him on. And then he proceeds to teach Friday to call him master and to serve him as a slave would. Now that obviously feels really, really uncomfortable reading in 2020, because that crap just doesn't fly nowadays. So I felt really, really uncomfortable about that. I didn't know. I knew of Robinson Crusoe being shipwrecked on an island. I did not know about Friday. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock, and I did give this 3 stars. This was not my 2-star book. I'll come to that. I did give this 3 stars because the reason why I didn't mark it down for having the uncomfortable storyline of a black man being made to call a white man master is because this book is 300 years old. We cannot judge a book written 300 years ago by today's standards. I can't do that. It's not fair to the book. Is it a good book? Yes. Is it well written? Yes. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Am I glad I read it? Yes. Will I read it again? No. And for that is a 3-star rating. I can't rate it down because it talks about slavery. Because in 1719, that crap was normal. We know today that it's crap. We know today that it's wrong, that it's completely inexcusable. But in 1719, it happened. We can't erase that. All we can do is learn from it and move on from it and make sure that that crap doesn't happen again. So it was a good book. I did enjoy the story. I am glad that I read it. I did give it a 3 stars. But I won't read it again because I know that that subject matter is not applicable anymore. I don't feel comfortable reading it. And then the last book that I read that wasn't in oh no, it's not the last book, but it is the last physical book that I read that wasn't in a readathon for the month of August, is this beautiful, stunning copy of The Animal Farm. This is the graphic novel version, which was illustrated by O'Dyer. Is it written there? And it is this beautiful painted kind of version. And obviously Animal Farm is written by George Orwell. This is such a gorgeous, gorgeous copy. It's painted illustrations, just stunning artwork. It's not a graphic novel like we would normally see graphic novels. There is written text like a storybook kind of thing, but this brings back memories for me. I performed Animal Farm at college. The first years of my course did Act 1, and myself and the other students in Year 2, we did Act 2, and we got that scene. And if you've read Animal Farm, you'll know what I'm talking about. That scene, we got to perform that, and it was absolutely amazing. Like, we got tinned tomatoes, and we were tearing them with our teeth and really like digging in, and it was really gruesome. We had to put like mats down, like tarpaulin sheets down so as not to stain the floor, and we made such a mess, but my god, it was amazing, apart from the fact that I don't like tinned tomatoes. But yeah, I love this story. I've not read the actual novel, but I absolutely love this graphic novel. I will be rereading this every year. I think it was just such a wonderful way to consume the story. I got this from my local bookshop, but if you want to purchase it, it is by Penguin Classics, and it's George Orwell's Animal Farm, the graphic novel, illustrated by O'Dyer, O-D-Y-R. And it was £16.99 to purchase. That's UK pounds. So yes, stunning copy of Animal Farm. And I gave this one 4 stars. I really should have got a 5. It should be a 5. I love this. I can't really think of any reason why I want to get a 5. Do you know what? I'm going to bump it up to a 5. It's a 5-star. So the other books that I read that were not in Project Hands, that's the other videos, darling, that were not in readathons was the audiobook of The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water by Zen Cho. This was only a 4-hour audiobook. I was trying to get in those short books at the end of the month to try and bump my numbers up. This was like a Japanese or Chinese story, more Japanese I think, of a group of bandits who were being hunted, and a woman finds them and tries to join them, and then she ends up having to save someone. I can't really remember much about it. It was so short and so quick. It wasn't very memorable. I did enjoy it, but it was a 3-star. I just think it wasn't anything to scream or shout about, really. The other book that I read was a library book, and that was Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, which is book 3 in Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed who the Titan turned out to be, because I haven't seen that particular character being in many stories before, and it's always been one of those things that has always really like enthralled me. If you've read The Titan's Curse, you'll know. If you haven't, you should. It's a really fun book, and I gave it 3 stars. So I read 2 ebooks on my tablet. The first of those was The Pale Dreamer by Samantha Shannon. This is the prequel to the Bone Season series, so it's a 0.5 book. It was only a 92-page ebook, so read really quickly. I thought this was really interesting because in this story we got the beginnings of Paige Mahoney and how she became a member of the crew of this 7 Dials, I think it's called, and how she kind of proved herself to Jackson, the leader of the crew, and how she got her nickname of the Pale Dreamer. I thought this was really, really interesting. I'm really glad that I've read it. It does give me a little bit more insight into her character, into Jackson's character, and I really felt like I got a lot of information from it that is going to help me move forward in this series. I have already read books 1, 2 and 3, and book 4 is due out in the beginning of 2021, I believe. I do have it on pre-order. It's called The Mask Falling, and I am very excited for that book and very excited to carry on with that series. I gave The Pale Dreamer a 3 stars, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. The second ebook that I read was another Bone Season book, and that was The Dawn Chorus by Samantha Shannon. So this is the book that is like the ebook that is after the third book, so after The Song Rising, and it's meant to kind of give us a little something until The Mask Falling is coming out. So The Dawn Chorus is book 3.5 in the series. Again, it's only a short ebook of about 90 pages. This one I felt was not so good. This one I felt really disappointed by. I know a lot of people had read it and enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it at all. The Pale Dreamer is the story of Paige dealing with the after effects of what happened in The Song Rising, and it is just her and the warden kind of recuperating. That's all I'm going to say. It deals with PTSD and it deals with like mental health and things like that. A lot of times I feel like I don't have the experience or the right credentials to review books because I don't feel like I'm own voices in a lot of books that I review. But when it comes to mental health and PTSD, I'm there. I have more than enough experience, personal experience. I have been suffering for 8 years now with my mental health, with PTSD. You know, I have borderline personality disorder, or emotionally unstable personality disorder as it's sometimes known. So when it comes to mental health representation, I know my stuff. And I don't feel like Paige suffered the way I would expect her to. For the majority of this book, she sleeps an awful lot. And of all the things I cannot do when my mental health is really bad, is sleep. I can go 24 hours, 48 hours, even on the odd occasion 72 hours I have been without sleep. And even when I do sleep, when my mental health is bad, it's more like a cat nap and the slightest little noise and I'm wide awake again. And yet Paige Mahoney sleeps like a log in this book. There was a point where she goes to wash her hair and she has to make the decision of whether she bends over the bath forwards and has the water going over her head, or if she bends over the bath backwards and sees the water coming down on her head, because she's terrified of water at this point. Now, this woman is also meant to have been a little bit battered and worn and it's sore, and yet she still makes the decision to bend over backwards over the bath to wash her hair. Now, I'm no contortionist and I'm not in pain in any way, shape or form, but I find it pretty impossible to bend over backwards over a bath to wash my hair. It hurts my back bending over the bath forwards, but I can't even imagine bending over backwards. But it just didn't make sense to me, considering that her ribs and her body is aching, yet she's managed to contortion her body backwards over the bath. That didn't seem right. The other thing as well was that Paige finds it quite easy to have a conversation with Warden. And again, in my experience, when I was suffering at my worst, holding a conversation with someone was absolutely impossible for me. I was locked inside my head. I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak. All I could do was like gaze at people, and like I just couldn't voice anything that was going on inside my head. So I gave this book a 2 stars. The Pale Dreamer didn't ring true for me to my experience of mental health. Maybe if you suffer with mental health and you find yourself sleeping all the time and you're able to hold conversations quite easily with people, please let me know, because this just didn't make sense to me. So The Pale Dreamer, book 3.5 in the Bone season, got 2 stars for me. Sorry, but I just didn't believe it. Just didn't believe the PTSD symptoms at all. So those were all the books that I read that were not in a readathon. Now, in August, I was meant to be taking part in 2 readathons. I had the Disneyathon, where I was on Team Little Mermaid, and I was doing the newts to finish them and complete my career. I can tell you that I finished 0 books from my newts. I completely failed that. So I'm going to keep those books aside and try and see if I can fit them in over the next couple of months. We shall see. But I did finish and complete all my Little Mermaid prompts for the Disneyathon, and Team Little Mermaid won! Yay! So I am very happy to be on the winning team. So the first book I read for that was the group book, which I listened to on audio. It is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. I really enjoyed this story. It was kind of like a Black Lives Matter with the metaphor of mermaids being losing their voice kind of scenario. So I really feel like the author was using the mermaids in the story to show how the people were losing their voice in order to say what they needed to say, and how the general public is trying to mute these people from speaking. And the storyline followed a kind of similar story to The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, where a person of colour is shot by a person in authority. That person in authority was never prosecuted and got away with the killing. And there's a protest march and people trying to raise awareness and speak up about Black Lives Matter. I don't own this book, and it is technically a mermaid book, so I am hoping to pick it up at some point. But yeah, I gave A Song Below Water 3 stars. The next book I read for the Disney Readathon was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, and this is a reread for me because of course I read these when they first came out. I thoroughly enjoyed it then, and I thoroughly enjoyed it again. Reading this after A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I can honestly see some links. I have a theory that possibly Katniss's father may be a relative of Lucy Greybeard from a salad? No, it's not a salad. It's a ballad of songbirds and snakes. A salad of songbirds and snakes. That would be amazing. No, it wouldn't. Don't eat that. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. It was nostalgia for me. It was brilliant. I loved being back in this world. And remembering all the details in it as well. I just love Suzanne Collins' way of writing. She's very pure and simple and straight to the point and blunt, and there it is. She's not whimsical or magical. She is straight to the point. It is the exact style of writing that this type of book should be written in, and I love it. 5 stars all round. The next book I read was Charmcaster, which is book 3 in the Spellslinger series. Wow, say that 5 times. By Sebastian de Castell. I love these books. I really think that if you're looking for a really good, fun fantasy series to pick up, this is one that I would highly recommend. It is so funny. The squirrel cat here, Rykus, he is hilarious. He has a fascination with wanting to eat human eyeballs. It's a thing. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoy this series. I didn't even have to go back and reread a little bit of book 2, even though I had read that a few months back, because the events of book 2, the reminders of the events of book 2 were beautifully woven into the beginning of this story, so you didn't feel like you were forgetting anything at all. And it was beautifully sewn into the beginning of the story. I loved it. So yeah, 4 stars for this one. The next book I read was a chunker, and this was the book that I was reading during those 10 days where I didn't finish a single book. And that was this one. It is a chunker. This is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. It's book 3 in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. This is started out as a Beauty and the Beast retelling and then has grown from there. I really enjoyed this. There was a massive battle scene at the end where I was literally cheering everybody on. Sarah J Maas really knows how to write those in a fun way that you don't feel like you're getting lost and confused in the battle. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I have the little novella A Court of Frost and Starlight to read, and then I am going to have to wait until the next book comes out, which I don't know is coming anytime soon. So that's sad, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I gave this one a 4 stars. No, 5 stars. I knew I had. I loved it. I think personally, I would say this one was my favourite book of the 3 so far. I gave this 5 stars. I gave A Court of Thorns and Roses 5 stars. And I gave A Court of Mist and Fury 4 stars. So, against popular opinion, because most people prefer the second book, and I prefer book 3 and book 1. So yeah, I'm going against the grain there with that one. So 5 stars for A Court of Wings and Ruin. And I did get more of my good friend Lucian. Not enough. I want more, please. Not that Sarah J Maas is ever going to watch this. And the last book that I read was The Mermaid, the Witch and the Sea by Maggie Takuda Hall. I thought this book had trans rep in it. I'm not sure if my definition of trans is right, but I felt more like, rather than it being trans rep, transgender rep, I thought this was more like fluid gender rep, because the character in here, named Flora, also felt themselves to be Florian at times, but they didn't prefer one over the other, so they could be both, just depending on the mood that they were in. So I feel that that's more like fluid gender rather than transgender. But please correct me if I'm wrong, if you know a bit more about that. This was great. This was kind of based on a kind of Japanese sort of culture where you have the nobles and a noble family who are struggling financially decide to sell their daughter off to gain military value back, and she's put on this ship to sail across to her new husband. However, what they don't realise is the ship that they've put her on is actually a pirate ship, and the people that go on this ship are then traded as slaves before they reach their destination. And yeah, there was mermaids in here, there was pirates, there was nobility, and the sea. The sea is a character in this story. I got the feeling of an Erin Morgenstern kind of story in this, where it was magical and whimsical, and just I really loved how the whole story was really entwined. The first part is set on the ship, the second part is set on land with a witch, and it's just, the whole thing just wove together so beautifully. I'm not sure if this is a yeah, it is a fantasy debut, and I am very excited to see what this author goes on to write next, because if this is her first book, she is just going to get better and better, and I cannot wait to pick up whatever she writes, because this was awesome. I gave this one a 4 stars. I don't know why I didn't give it a 5. Why did I not give you a 5? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little tight with my 5s. But when I think about this book, I think how much I enjoyed it, how much I enjoyed the story weaving. It's a shame I don't give half stars, because maybe it's a 4.5. So yeah, I think if a story doesn't make me cry, I'm a little bit less prone to give it 5 stars. I think that's what it is. Make me cry and I'll give you 5 stars. Don't make me cry and you're a 4 stars. So that was it. That was all the books that I read in August. I hope my camera, my editing program doesn't wipe off all of this now. But there you go. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!